How do everybody? So I've got an absolute banger of a story here. So for those of you who don't know, just to give you a little bit of relevance on why I'm going to enjoy this so much, I am a veteran of the British Army. I served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I was in the Royal Electrical Mechanical Engineers. Um, Now this story is in relation to a particular solicitor, lawyer, whatever, who engaged in US-style ambulance chasing against the British Armed Forces for alleged, I think it was war crimes or something like that, which were later proven to something like they weren't true, or they were blown well out of proportion, or something like that. Anyway, it was found that he'd done things wrong. These claims, I believe, were without merit. And this man's now has been to court. He's actually pleading guilty to various offences. So let's get. There is a bit of background in here. It has been many years since I remember out this story, and there's that many different stories that have happened. I don't think it's related to the Daily Mirror though, where there was allegations of British troops like urinating on the back of Iraqi prisoners, which were proven false. It was to do with the wagons being the absolute wrong vehicles, or the interiors of the backs of the trucks being wrong to what they should have actually been, which was how they were proven false. I don't think it's related to that. I think it's something to do with people being killed fighting in Iraq. I can't remember. We'll discover that as we go through it anyway. But anyway, I'm very happy because this man is absolutely disgusting as far as I'm concerned. That he was trying to profiteer off chasing veterans, well, at the time, or soldiers engaging in legal and lawful duties in service of the country. Another thing as well is I've had a quick look at his early life on Wikipedia as well. I don't normally go into other things from stories, but with this, I think it's very important because of the level of influence this man has had over human rights law in this country. I think we do need to have a quick look into that afterwards, and just see why our human rights system is such a mess. And I think this man has got a large contributing part in the state of our human rights system in this country, and why it should all really be looked into and overhauled, especially when this man's had his dirty fingerprints all over it for many years. So, former lawyer pleads guilty to fraud over Iraq war claims. Hallelujah! Or better late than never, just like with the victims of the grooming gangs who are starting to see justice and inquiries now, 20 years later. And this has been nearly 20 years for this man as well. So, former human rights lawyer Phil Shiner has pleaded guilty to 3 counts of fraud linked to claims made against British Iraq war veterans. As I say, I'm a veteran myself, so this is very dear to my heart, because I would be horrified if I had an individual like this pursuing me when I've done nothing wrong, as has been proven that none of these troops have done anything wrong. Shiner, 67, appeared in Southwark Crown Court on Monday, where he entered the guilty pleas. The National Crime Agency, NCA, said. For people who don't know, the National Crime Agency are a very new unit. Well, newish, I think maybe less than 10 years old. An equivalent of the US FBI, so they deal with very serious crime. So for the NCA to be involved, this man has really pooed in his pants, in a tremendous way. So the former boss of public interest lawyers was struck off by the Solicitors Regulation Authority in 2017 for pursuing false torture and murder allegations against British troops. So this isn't just somebody saying you negligently discharged a gun and they accidentally shot somebody walking the dog down the street of downtown Baghdad. This is very serious. I mean, that'd be serious anyway, but I mean, to false torture and false murder, that is crazy stuff. And this man, in my opinion, will not go to prison for anywhere near long enough for the torment and distress that he has caused to these veterans that he has falsely pursued through the courts. The head of the NCA's International Corruption Unit said the conviction is a milestone. I fully agree with that, and hopefully the NCA will start pursuing people who covered up the Pakistani-Bangladeshi Muslim rape gang scandal as well, ranging from counsellors to police officers to social service workers, school, NHS workers, possibly MPs as well. That is a whole rabbit hole which I doubt they are going to go down though, unfortunately. The 3 charges relate to allegations of fraud offences over legal aid claims made in 2007. Then Shiner from Birmingham made an application to the Legal Services Commission seeking up to £200,000 of legal aid funding for his firm to represent clients, including Kuda Al-Swedi, in an application for judicial review. This makes me absolutely sick. when you have people in this country who can't get legal aid when they have various problems relating to things that they have not done anything wrong with in this country. People who were born in this country and whose ancestors date back hundreds, if not thousands of years in this country. And yet we have somebody like Khuda El-Swedi who is able to claim £200,000. Well, maybe he didn't personally, maybe it's a culmination of other people, but it's just shocking and it really, really does upset me. I've been going through hell and high water against child maintenance for many, many years, and I've managed to prove myself innocent. And even now, they are still punitively punishing me for something that I didn't do wrong. And am I able to get a single penny to help me fight them? No, I'm not. I am absolutely not able to do that. And as I will repeatedly say, I have done absolutely nothing wrong. And child maintenance, I've even got it in writing that they have actually massively cocked up. They've had to write me a letter to apologise to me, which is, those things are rarer than rocking horse poo, by the way. You know, it's like finding chicken's teeth. How rare an apology of child maintenance is. You can probably count on one hand how many people in the country. You can probably count on one finger how many people in the country have got an apology off them. That being myself. Very, very rare. That's how, and even now, I'm still being persecuted by them. Well, persecuted is the word I like to use, but they are massive. I'll get into that in another video another time. It was claimed that his nephew, Hamid Al-Swedi, was unlawfully killed while in custody of British troops at military base Camp Abu Najir. The lengthy inquiry into wider allegations of abuse at the hands of British soldiers established beyond doubt that all of the most serious allegations had been found to be wholly without foundation and entirely the product of deliberate lies. Yet they were given £200,000 for this, for that, and that's a heck of a lot of money. You know what I mean? That's a lot of money. This stuff. This is why I want the death penalty and why I want capital punishment and corporal punishment bringing back. Not only should these people be going to prison for a very long time, but they should be getting to flog to within an inch of their life for this. That is absolutely unacceptable allegation. Now, don't get me wrong. If British troops are committing war crimes, I absolutely want those people put in prison for a long time, and I would like to see them flogged to within an inch of their life. But that it should be equal in both directions. I am absolutely in no way just simply saying this because he's got a name that I can barely pronounce. I'm saying this because this is when things are this serious, the punishments also need to be equally as serious. Absolutely, you know, if it had been that, well, we can't tell, it may be true, it may not be, I'd be like, well, that's fair enough, you've got to leave it. But when it's a product of deliberate lying, that really, really needs swift and brutal retribution to deal with that, in my opinion. So, the inquiry report said that Hamid Al-Swedi had been killed outright during fighting and not detained alive. That is how big of a lie that was, that the man had been killed fighting, and yet they tried to make allegations that he had been tortured and murdered whilst imprisoned. Naughty, naughty. The NCA said that in total, China received around £3 million in the value of the contract, and that the ensuing Al-Swedi inquiry cost the taxpayer £24 million. How many doctors and nurses could that pay for? That is where our money's going. It has been wasted on frivolous activities and lawfare like this, based on unscrupulous individuals who are there purely to destroy this country through their own either ignorance and greed or hatred of Britain. The agency said China had failed to disclose that an agent acted on his behalf and had been cold calling and making unsolicited approaches to potential clients in Iraq. And this is why I describe him as being a US... Apologies for the quick jump here. My battery died whilst recording, so I've had to jump back in again. So I do apologise if it's a little bit disjointed. But anyway, let's continue. So anyway, this is why I describe it as being US-style ambulance chasing, because the man was literally travelling halfway across the world to rustle up false claims so he could profiteer from the war. So the second count of fraud was levelled after he was found to have been disclosed that he was paying referral fees, a practice not permitted while obtaining a legal aid contract. So this man knew that he was doing a very, very bad thing. This guy, like I said, should be flogged for what he's done. This is disgusting behaviour that no legal professional should ever be engaging in. He was also convicted of providing a witness statement to the commission in support of his application, which was again obtained via an unsolicited approach. Because this information was not disclosed, Shiner, and that would be knowingly not disclosed as well, Shiner was able to gain a valuable legal aid contract to pursue the judicial review, the agency said. So this man is engaged in some of the scummiest behaviours to try and get very lucrative contracts in order to enrich himself, and knowingly lied in court and pursued false allegations purely for his own enrichment. This man is a traitor as far as I'm concerned and should be treated as such. Andy Kelly, head of the NCI's International Corruption Unit, said this conviction is a milestone in what has been through a thorough and complex domestic and international investigation. Fully agree with that, and hats off to the NCA for this. They've done a fantastic job. Better late than never. Shiner's actions resulted in untold pressure and anxiety on members of the British Armed Forces pursuing legal challenges funded through dishonest actions, he said. Shiner will be sentenced on 2nd of December. Unfortunately, as I say, our punishments in this country don't go anywhere near far enough what I think that man should receive. He is a disgusting and absolutely unscrupulous individual, and an example really should be made of him. So let's get on. I'm going to go to his Wikipedia, so nobody can accuse me of trying to go to bias sources or anything like that. I'm not going to go too much into it. It's just a couple of paragraphs in his early life. Very interesting. And as I said at the beginning, this, I think, shines a light on the problems that we are seeing in the human rights legal system at the moment. And you'll understand as we read through it. So I'll read it verbatim from here. Shiner was educated at the University of Birmingham in 1978 and the University of Warwick in 1985. So this man's been practicing law a long time, so he's a veteran of the legal system. He was an honorary research fellow at the University of Warwick, so he's clearly been involved in law and in shaping the way that young people and new legal experts and practitioners think about law, and they will then percolate those ideas out into that. And we're not talking about a very big system here. You know, it's not like shopkeepers where, you know, you could say there's like a million shopkeepers. You know, there's very few people who work in human rights in the country. So this man is going to have, even though it might only be one university, going to have a massive impact on the way people in law think. And those people obviously interact with other people in law, and that has a knock-on effect with inside the industry. And it's, you know, you end up with institutionalized ways of thinking because of this. So that was from 1999 to 2004. So that was a 5-year period. That's a long time to influence the system. An honorary professor of law at the London Metropolitan University. Now, if he's an honorary professor of law, that may not mean that he was actually practicing there, and it could have just been a title that they gave him as like, you know, we recognise your work, so to speak. I could be wrong there. If anybody does actually know any better than that with me, please do correct me in the comments below, because I'd rather be right than be wrong. So, from 2005 to 2013, and a visiting fellow at the London School of Economics, 2005 to 2013. In July 2012, the University of Kent awarded him an honorary Doctorate of Law. So that doesn't mean that he studied there, but they've just recognised the work that he's done and thought, yep, you're a great guy, here you go. Which the university revoked in November 2017. Well, fantastic. That's at least one thing. That was my device, not yours, by the way. Which is fantastic news, you know, so at least they've recognised that this guy absolutely is a scumbag. Following the findings of the misconduct against him, Shiner was named Human Rights Lawyer of the Year in 2004. I mean, you actually can't make this rubbish up, can you? You know, this. I mean, what was this guy doing? If he's been doing this with this case in Iraq, by the way, what's he been doing beforehand? And how much corruption is he involved in other cases before that? An award given jointly by the human rights organisation Liberty and Justice. It's two separate organisations, that, by the way. It's not Liberty and Justice being one organisation, two separate organisations. For his tremendous skill, tenacity and dedication to fighting for justice. Well, haven't they got egg on their face for that? In 2007, he was named the Law Society's Solicitor of the Year. From 2004 to 2014, he was a regular contributor to The Guardian newspaper. Who could have been surprised by that? And this is what I'm saying. So you've got a man here who's been really influential in all of these areas of law, based around human rights and that sort of whole industry. These people have been fawning over this individual, and he has been obviously we've got to be speaking to him, talking to him. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them knew what he was getting up to as well. And also, he's been spreading his bile in The Guardian. Now, how many people read The Guardian? And this is why I do think that the country, with regards to human rights, is in such a mess at the moment. Because you've had people like this who've been engaging in absolutely unscrupulous activities to profiteer, and have been basically poisoning the well of what was once a fantastic endeavour. Of charitable outreach to the rest of the world. Now you have these money-grabbing people like this who just absolutely ruined it. I just thought that was very interesting to speak about there, and just to point to where this man's actually been and the sort of endorsements in the organisations that he's had, including, and I do think it's very interesting that he's been involved in the Guardian newspaper for a very, very long time. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'll put the links below. Please, please, please do read these yourself. Look into it yourself. Make your own minds up. I could be wrong on what I'm saying. I'm absolutely happy for people to say I'm wrong. If you can prove me wrong, please do. Put comments below. I'm not a closed book. I will listen if your points are good enough. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. If you found that interesting, useful, insightful, all that good stuff, please do like, subscribe. And as I always say, please, please, please do put comments below. I love reading them and I do love replying to them. Thank you very much and goodbye.